Going to go ahead and get the recording started. And our team from YouVisit today is going to be the three other people you see on camera this morning. We have Alice, Meredith, and Alex with us. I'd love to go ahead and hand it over to y'all to get started whenever you are ready.
Awesome. Thank you, Kayla. I appreciate it. And good morning, Deb, Tommy, and Scott. I kind of love this smaller group that we've got on the line because it allows for a very conversational webinar this morning. So please feel free to chat in questions. We want to make sure we're answering all of those. We may leave those till the end of the tour, depending on what the question is and when it pops up, but we'll definitely be able to get to all of those. So who are we? I am Meredith Schatz. I'm Senior Director and Chief of Staff at YouVisit. Through my work, I manage all the operations for the YouVisit team. I've had the pleasure of working closely with Alice and Alex across the last fiscal year, really trying to focus and think of ways that we can provide increased value through virtual tours in the hospitality and tourism space through our virtual tour products. We feel like those that are either in hotels or district management organizations, whatever it may be, the end user of virtual tours would really be so benefited from an enhanced virtual tour experience. And we wanted to share what that could look like for you all. Alex, you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Awesome. Thank you, Meredith. Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here today. I'm Alice Schindelar, the creative director for YouVisit Studios. And I've been working in the virtual tour and immersive experience space for about 9 years now. I started as a producer and content capture team member. So I was, going on site to capture all the content that go into virtual tours. And now as the creative director, I oversee a team of creatives. So that's our producers and writers and photographers and videographers that help our partners strategize the stories that go behind their virtual tour projects. And over the years, I've had the privilege of creating hundreds of virtual tours in all types of industries, including higher ed, hospitality and tourism, travel, manufacturing, medical apparel, medical and apparel, corporate recruitment and technology. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here today and talk to you all about what I think makes a virtual tour a particularly powerful marketing tool. So over to you, Alex.
Perfect. Thank you. And good morning, everyone. Also, I'm really excited to talk to you about the potential of virtual tours. So I'm a content specialist here in the studio, and I work hand in hand with Alice and Meredith really on the strategy behind your tours. So my job is really to make sure that your tours are on brand, on message, and set up to achieve your goals.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Alex. Okay, with that, we're going to jump into what is a virtual tour. But first, we want to talk through and clarify what it is not. So how many on the line, I know that we don't have our cameras on, think that they have experienced a virtual tour? If you are saying yes, you may have been duped because the following are actually not virtual tours. And this is what we most often see on things like third-party sites. So what a virtual tour is not, it is not a basic slideshow of buildings. It is also not still photos and videos that really limit your interaction with a site or location. And it is also not clickable maps or walking paths. With these, what comes to mind for me are third-party vendor sites, for example. These are sites where travelers can get a sense of a location, but they can't really get a sense of the experience because they're not actually engaging with a compelling tour. So what actually is a virtual tour? So a virtual tour is responsive. It allows the users to engage with the tour in a very customized way, which thus enhances their experience and increases their time on tour. A virtual tour is also very immersive. This gives the users a sense of what it's like to be in a space or your space. It just isn't the physical space, however. A compelling virtual tour also gives you a sense of the culture and the feelings of a location. And lastly, a virtual tour is incredibly unique. It's a story about you or your property, a locale, or an experience, and it tells the story the way that you want it to be told. So what are the types of virtual tours? There are actually quite a few, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. The first that I want to talk about today is a video tour. So with these are going to be guided tours where a video is usually used to take a viewer through a location. You'll see on the picture here, you press the play button, you can skip it if you want. It's a static video. With these, you want to think things like influencer tours that you might see of hotel rooms or locations that pop up on YouTube. These types of videos are commonly used to showcase the ambiance of maybe a restaurant, a hotel, or a tourist attraction. Then we have walking tours. So these are what you would think of maybe as an early virtual tour that perhaps we saw years back when the technology came to be. These are made from generally 2D videos with trails that lead from one location to the next. On these types of tours, as you'll see on the bottom here, you can click on an arrow and advance through a space as if you're walking down the sidewalk in front of you. Then we have 360-degree tours. So these tours are a panoramic tour that actually allows the user or the viewer to look in every direction from a fixed point. With these, for example, you're probably most often seeing this in something like Google Street View, where you put in an address, it pops you onto the street, and you're able to advance or turn around to the property to see what is on all fixed points of the image. Then we have interactive tours. So these are going to be a more advanced tour that allows the users to actually interact with the environment. You'll see on the screen right now that the mouse is clicking through, picking up pieces that are part of the tour, all while the tour guide is continuing to speak. Users, like I said, they can click on objects, they can click on videos, and they can navigate to different rooms or areas while in the tour. A strong use case actually in your area are museums and historical sites, for example, because they have the added interactivity within them. So if it's a virtual tour is used as a learning tool, the user has access to learn as they go. Then we've got virtual tours or VR tours, which you guys have probably heard that acronym before. So these are the types of tours that provide a fully immersive experience. With these, viewers are usually wearing a VR headset to explore the location, and it gives them the sense of truly being physically present. These tours can combine elements that we just looked at, like the 360 degrees, the videos, or the interactive tour elements all in one. And then lastly, we have augmented reality tours or AR tours. And this is kind of be the most leading type of tour right now in the space. AR tours, they overlay digital information on real world elements. So you can see here in the image, someone is holding their phone to say, hey, I'm on the street, tell me more about it. And the phone, the tour itself, is giving you information as you physically walk through the space. You can use it to overlay information about history or architectural features. This one, for example, is talking about restaurants and accommodations nearby. So those are our type of tours. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alice to talk about the importance of leveraging storytelling as part of your virtual tour experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Meredith, for setting some groundwork for us before we start talking about storytelling and virtual tours. We're also going to be talking about the unique ways in which they can be designed to reach really any audience and how they can be a powerful and essential part of your marketing strategy. But then also how a virtual tour is something that should be, I would say, additive to your existing marketing materials and campaigns, how it's more than a video and different from a website or a social media account, and how in many ways it can be all of these things in one place. So to start us off on this conversation, I've come up with 6 examples of how a virtual tour can uniquely appeal to an audience. Those are immersion, interactivity, authenticity, accessibility, educational value, and brand differentiation. So let's take a look at each of these points. The first one is immersion. Virtual tours really provide an immersive experience that traditional photos or videos can't match. through 360 photos and videos, as well as some of the other applications that Meredith was just talking about, like augmented reality and VR headsets. Virtual tours allow viewers to be fully immersed in the viewing experience. And this from the get-go creates, I would say, a deeper engagement, a sense of presence, participation, even transparency, which is a point that I'll get into a little bit more in a moment here. But also what I really want to emphasize with immersion is that it simply helps to tell the story of a place or a space in a more compelling, almost playful manner, making it immediately memorable and impactful to an audience. All right, so interactivity. Speaking of being playful, then there's also, like I said, interactivity. Virtual tours can offer all kinds of different ways for users to interact and explore independently through things like clickable hotspots, audio guides, embedded videos, motion graphics. These features provide deeper information and insight that tell a story about the brand and the destination, and this drives engagement. You know, we also know that our attention spans on the internet are very short these days. So I would say that the average user spends less than 30 seconds looking at a social media post, maybe a minute watching a video, if you're lucky and the video keeps them engaged. 2 to 3 minutes is generally considered the average amount of time on a user will stay on a website before clicking away. But we've seen that because of all the opportunities to interact and explore in a virtual tour and even look at all of these types of content that I just named, especially when we're talking about a virtual tour that's packed with, you know, good storytelling and beautiful content, users spend around 8 to 9 minutes on these tours, which is a digital eternity. Okay, so authenticity. This is one of my favorite things about capturing real spaces in 360. It's that we get to give the viewers something that they really know they can trust. What you see is what you're going to get in a 360 photo or video. You can't hide anything beyond the edges of the frame or play with scale in a way that you can in traditional photography and video. Not only can you look all around, and I believe if you click one more time, this one will spin for you, the slide. There's either a play button or if you just, there we go, perfect. So not only can you look all around, like as we're seeing in the example here, up and down, etc., but you can also understand scale from photos like these. You can tell how big the bed is in comparison to the chair. And when you put on a VR headset and view it that way, you can truly understand the scale of the room in comparison to yourself. So when you provide an audience with this sort of direct virtual access to your destination, you're just, you know, I believe that you're creating trust by not being able to really hide anything beyond the edges of the frame. All right, then there's accessibility. You know, simply put, providing virtual access to a physical space broadens your audience. Virtual tours make locations and experiences accessible to the broadest audience possible, including those who can't physically visit due to distance, cost, mobility limitations, etc. So this accessibility means that stories, the unique appeal of your offering, or even say the cultural heritage and educational value of a historical location or museum can reach a global audience. But it can also help answer any questions or provide valuable insight into the physical makeup of a location itself. And then, you know, that might be helpful to those with any sort of accessibility requirements. So if they want to be certain that a hotel room or a tourist location can accommodate them, this is one way that you can show that in a very authentic way. All right, going back to what we were talking about earlier about immersion and interactivity and its connection to engagement, you know, virtual tours can be a truly powerful educational tool. It's a learning experience that holds your audience's attention span, keeps them engaged, and gives them the power to choose what they want to learn more about. Finally, My final point here was brand differentiation. And here's where I would say that playfulness factor comes into play again. Virtual tours, and especially a well thought out curated virtual tour that's designed to tell a story, is just an immediate way to make yourself stand out. And then once you've got them hooked through the wow factor of, having something like a virtual tour, you're able to keep your audience engaged with that, like that high amount of time spent on a virtual tour and all of the other methods that I've mentioned earlier. Okay, so looking back at what I mentioned earlier about how virtual tour can be a powerful and essential part of your marketing strategy, I want to break that down a little bit more now and my thoughts there. Part of this, I'm saying that I believe a virtual tour can be a one-stop shop for your audience. As travel and tourism shoppers, I would just say that, and even each of us as internet users in general, we use a vast array of different resources these days to make decisions about travel destinations. Travel is a big investment, especially for the everyday consumer, and a decision that's not made lightly. We use things like third-party booking vendors, visit the hotel or destination website, read reviews, and look at social media accounts, even look at our own friends' photos of destinations they've been to try to decide where we're going to go next. So, imagine if your audience could learn all of that, learn your story, absorb your value proposition, make a decision about where they want to go next, and then take action to book a stay, get a ticket, ask for more information, all in one place. That is something that I really believe that a well-designed virtual tour can do. And let me break that down a little bit more using this sort of roadmap that I've put out here. Users can see what they're going to get. They can preview your hotel, your destination, your museum, your historical location through the virtual tour and the immersive content itself. Then they can hear and read testimonials from visitors through audio embeds and photo galleries that live right within the tour. They can explore your social media accounts through integration. They can learn about any ad services that might be a part of your offering through additional 360 photos, 2D photos, videos, etc. So they might be able to learn about an event or a restaurant or a spa or anything else that's associated with your destination. They can meet members of your staff and local experts who serve as virtual tour guides within the tour itself. They might be able to go behind the scenes and say, meet the chef of the restaurant or the museum curator. And so in a lot of cases, you can give them an experience that they might not even be able to experience on site itself, because you're giving them that firsthand, meeting with a behind the scenes member of your team. They can get a sense of the location, and other things that are near the destination when you include information about the surrounding area in the tour. And finally, they can take action by going directly to book a stay or ask for more information. All right. So now let's dive into some use cases and talk about what we've seen as, I think you skipped ahead one. Thank you. What we've seen as potential audiences for virtual tours, or some common audiences that we've seen in this industry. So there is corporate travel. So that would be, like your corporate travel managers, procurement managers, business travel coordinators, etc. This is a tour for the New York Renaissance Midtown Hotel. They wanted to secure corporate travel partners by showing off the unique sort of technology forward aspects of their hotel. And that harkens back to what I was saying earlier about using a virtual tour as part of your marketing strategy being, in and of itself a brand differentiator, because this hotel, they call themselves the world's first living hotel. And all throughout the hotel, they have a very tech-forward design with interactive digital art, and etc. So that, aspect of their brand makes the interactivity of a virtual tour platform a very on-brand way for them to showcase themselves. So with these two goals in mind, corporate partnership and a tech-forward design of their own, this tour follows a day in the life of a businesswoman. We get to watch her interact with the concierge who helps her get to know the surrounding area, host a meeting on their property, and network with the hotel, network in the hotel restaurant. We also get to see her spend a night out on town, which promotes the area itself as a destination for pleasure as well as business. So that's an example of really how you can use a virtual tour as a storytelling tool as well. All right. Another common use case we see is tours designed for event coordinators, meeting planners, conference organizers, etc. This is a pair of tours we did for Visit Atlantic City that showcased both their conference center and activities to do around Atlantic City. So in these ones, users can get a look at the various conference halls, meeting rooms, lobby spaces as they're planning their conference, but then they can also plan their downtime by visiting restaurants, casinos, multiple hotels that are featured in the tour itself, and even they can even use the Atlantic City Destinations tour, so the tour that they designed just to talk about the surrounding area, as a way to promote the conference itself to their attendees, to attract them to come to the area. And these tours are a great example of how I would say a virtual tour can live outside the constraints of physical geography. So Meredith talked about that a little bit before. You know, instead of having a traditional walking tour where you're clicking on one photo after the other as you advance down a sidewalk and that takes you from point A to point B, Visit Atlantic City really decided to leverage the virtual tours by showing off dozens of locations spread all around the city. And they're organized more by sort of priority, topic, what they want to put in front of their audience versus, you know, how you might drive from one to the next in that location itself. All right. And then there's consumer level travel. So there are really a number of different ways that a virtual tour can be used to help families and people booking personal travel choose their next destination. We've seen all kinds. We've seen tours for local tourism boards, resorts, casinos, even things like music festivals and other types of festivals. Like the photo in the upper left-hand corner here is from the Hot Air Balloon Festival in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So for example, you know, by featuring local events like a street fair or an art fair, as well as natural attractions, shopping and restaurant districts, you know, historical monuments and museums and lodging, a local tourism board can offer their audience a highly engaging and immersive peek into their next travel destination and all the things that they might do there. All right. And my final example of a use case is for recruitment and hiring. You know, a tour might be used, and we've seen this a number of times before, to give prospective employees a peek into their potential place of work, the various roles that they might hold, the amenities that might be offered there, the benefits offered by the company, and just the all-around day-to-day of the job itself. This is an example of a tour that Hyatt created as part of their corporate marketing strategy. And they have two tours, one for their different hotel types, full service and select. And these tours, you meet staff like the concierge, guest services, kitchen and maintenance, and you learn about their jobs directly from real members of the staff themselves. And the tour also has content that's layered throughout where, you know, that you get to learn about the various ways in which the company supports their staff. So, you know, sure, a recruitment tour might be nice for a multinational corporation like Hyatt, but we've also seen smaller companies such as a law firm with an office in New York called A. King Gump. They use a virtual tour for this purpose. And they report a lot of value from employees, especially remote employees, just getting such a unique peek into their culture and physical offices. So, you know, needless to say, an interactive and immersive platform like a virtual tour can go way beyond a map or a way to virtually walk a location, as you see from the examples I just shared with you. But this is just a small selection, I would say, of the types of stories that you can tell through a tour and the audiences you can reach. You know, we are always looking for and excited about new ideas about how a virtual tour can be used to show off a place or tell a unique story to an audience. All right. So that is, you know, all we have to share right off the bat. You know, thank you for your interest in virtual tours. We've definitely got some time left for Q&A. So please feel free to come off mute or chat in any questions that you might have.
Hey, good morning. So just a quick question for our for some of our DMO or attraction partners, I guess, I know I haven't necessarily heard with VRLTA, but I recall when working with VTC and virtual tours really kind of coming into their own, some attractions would, kind of express some hesitation about like the potential of virtual tours replacing actual visitation. Do you have any kind of like insights on how to assuage any of those fears if some of our partners might be kind of thinking similar things?
One thought I have off the bat with that question is another approach to take with a virtual tour is to create something that's additive to the experience itself, like may not be an existing part of what someone could do when they actually come on site. So like that behind the scenes story that I was talking about, maybe you're telling a story that's like about the creation of the experience, and then that's sort of a teaser for the experience itself when they come on site. That's one idea off the top of my head. I don't know, Alex or Meredith, do you two have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan. And so another use case that we didn't actually really speak to is hotels and lodging specifically. So we have found some prospective partners and current partners who use their tour to really assure the investment in a trip. And so, for example, we've got some partners who you want to stay at their property for 5-7 days. You're looking at, $8,000-$10,000. And before you're making that investment in that week-long vacation, you want to get a really good sense of, okay, is where my room going to be really in proximity or walking proximity to the restaurant, for example. I have 2 young children, they can't bicycle. So all of the questions that you may have are really assuaged through a virtual tour when you are also making that investment that some of our partners require in order to actually come on property. Alex, any other insights?
No, I'd completely agree. I've often found that education just breeds more excitement, and that as people feel like they have a better sense of all the offerings that are available to them and those that make your spaces specifically unique, they actually feel more empowered to take the next step because they start to get excited about sharing those experiences with the people they love. So, we've done everything from have our cameras jump out of planes to zip line through trees, helicopters around, cruise boats, zipping across the ocean in multiple boats. And we've only had the message reinforced that those teases for the experience that you can have in person have actually excited people to make the next step and feel a little bit more educated about where they are in the funnel.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got a private chat. How are tours actually experienced? Do I have to wear a headset or can I see it on a computer? So absolutely, you can you can see all of many virtual tours via a desktop, via a phone. Most of the users that we see on our virtual tours are looking at them on cell phones. So most tours that you're going to see these days are going to be mobile first is the term there. And if there's interest, we could absolutely show you what that looks like on a desktop. You could take your time later to look at it on your phone, but yes, you can do it from a computer. You do not need any kind of headset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another cool aspect of that, in fact, is actually that tours have a secondary use. So they're helpful in educating people about getting to the experience and actually arriving on site. But you could imagine for event planners, you can return to the space that you're actually planning an event for multiple times as you start to design your experience. And it's a great way to communicate not only with your staff, but with the team who's on site for a physical space that you might not actually live close to, or that it would take you a lot of time to get to, so that you can not only have a great event that's been planned in advance, but that all of the daily setup is, meticulously understood. All of the availability for AV, menus, back of house is, organized in a way that feels really comfortable and specific to that space.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask a kind of a follow-up kind of similar to that. Do you have, partners or folks that use the kind of virtual tour experience more as kind of a, we have a lot of hotels that have like those large event spaces and stuff like that. So is it like, do you have success cases of like folks using it as kind of like a sales tool for some event planners and stuff like that who are looking to try to, give people a better idea on, weddings or convention space or different things like that?
Definitely. We've had partners who will use the design of virtual tour basically as very engaging, interactive PowerPoint to use on presentation and sales meetings that they do themselves. So they can, pull that up in the Zoom meeting, move through the interactivity, show those spaces in those conversations. We also have, going back to that sort of question about how can you look at it and how can you access it, many virtual tour platforms will allow you to link to different parts of the platform itself so that you can integrate it into your marketing campaigns. So say you have a print marketing or an email marketing campaign, and one of the destinations in the tour is the conference hall, another destination is a hotel, or some like nearby, like the beach or the casino or whatever. You could leverage each separate one of those locations differently for your marketing campaign. If you had some copy that you were writing about the conference center and you wanted to share the link directly to the image of the conference center, you could do that. You could also take that immersive image of the conference center that is 360 degrees and embed that on a web page as a banner. So now you have an immersive 360 image on your website.
And what's actually really helpful with a virtual tour too, because it is virtual, right? You have the ability to highlight a space like a wedding hall that can also be used in multiple ways. Maybe it's for a meeting or another event, and you can see the space change for each of those use cases rather than, a person wants to come on site. Well, sorry, it's set up for a wedding right now. Maybe next Tuesday is better. We can get it set up to show you what it would look like for a larger meeting. They can do it all at home and really start to get an understanding of your area. Alex, I think we actually have a use case like that. Do you have something that you could pull up just to show how it can, show the different uses?
Yeah, I'd love to. Is it okay if I borrow your screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I don't have screen sharing access. Alice or Meredith, would you
I just added you.
No.
Oh, perfect.
I think Kayla might. There you go.
So you should all be able to see my screen. This is a tour that we developed also for the event planners audience. And in fact, it's two tours in one. It's called Destination Atlantic City. And so we have one that's back of house that showcases all the functionality of the spaces and how they can transform. And then one that's front of house. It's more about all of the different experiences that you can have once you are on site. And so it allows them to communicate with their audience in both preparing for the events and also what you'd actually get to do when you're not, at the conference, all the fun that you can have with your family. So this is one of the raw spaces that they have on offer. And as you can see, it's expansive, but what exactly would it look like on the day? So we took the best of their media and talked about their actual convention setup and the support that they provide to you so that your event can happen without a hitch. And then we also added a 360 right in the space that showcases sort of how it starts to transform, how they put up these partitions, the lighting that they start to design, the stagecraft that's available to you. In addition to that, there's a supplemental gallery available, which is just a photo gallery like you'd imagine. And what it does is it allows you to go through a timeline of different styles of events that have happened in this space, from corporate events to product launch parties. And you could imagine that this could, in this case it doesn't, but you could imagine that instead of going from a boat show to a live concert, if you wanted to showcase your food offerings, you could do a lot of really close-up amazing photos of what the menu would incorporate. You could talk about AV operations. And so it's just like, it's an all-in-one and immersive experience where the person's guiding themselves as they're actually having a good time educating themselves on what this place can offer and how it can transform from raw to, really exceptional.
All right, I saw another question on the line from Tommy about data insights and what we can offer our partners about the impact of the type of marketing. The answer there is yes, Tommy. We absolutely have data that we can share, time on tour, for example, that Alice shared, number of visits, number of return visits. We, as a company, have been previously focused on the higher education space. And so many of our metrics right now are being pulled out of those systems into this kind of new market system to make sure that we can provide new markets the same level of data reporting that we have been able to our collegiate partners. But yes, there are insights that we can provide on the success and the use case of your marketing, especially if users are clicking through on the call to action buttons. We can follow them on that path to booking or emailing, time on site, etc.
Yeah. Our sort of top data points that we quote frequently are the one that I brought up before about, about 8 to 9 minutes spent on the platform itself. We also see about a 17.5% increase in inquiries from visitors on the virtual tour platform. And we, speaking of directly about our higher ed partners, but this could potentially translate to new partners as well. We believe we see about a 4 times higher rate of visits, actual physical visits, from the viewers of virtual tours. And our platforms also provide a lot of the standard sort of analytics that you might want to gather from any sort of campaign that you have on the internet. So you can see where visitors have visited your tour from, both like geographically and what platform they're using to visit. So are they using mobile? Are they using web? What link are they using to access your tour? And we have the ability to collect inquiries directly if that is something that the partner is interested in having. Yeah.
That's great. Before I see Alex furiously looking for a tour to show to Scott to his question. So I'll jump to Ryan's being, what would the timeline look like? And yes, it is schedule dependent. So a lot of our partners want to highlight their property, their location, their experience at a certain time of year. So if it's a festival, obviously during the festival, right? But assuming, we had someone come to us and say, hey, we want a virtual tour. We are open to scheduling the on-site shoot at whatever point, assuming that our partner is very responsive with kind of the initial back and forth that's necessary to kick off the partnership with different assets and scheduling and meetings like that. Usually we're seeing, Alice, I think it's right around 4 months right now. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So about 14 to 16 weeks is what we see there. And then Scott's question about examples of tour for something like a performing arts venue. And since we've got such a small call, I would be very interested in what organizations you guys are actually a part of, just so that we can really kind of glean use cases in a way that might be interesting to you all. Scott, if you don't mind sharing, where are you from?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm with Virginia Arts Festival in Norfolk.
Cool.
I'm specifically thinking we produce a large event every summer in Williamsburg. It's outdoors. It's a tent that we set up every year. So the format's the same every year, but it's non-permanent.
That's great. Yeah. So that would be kind of like our Albuquerque, like the Hot Air Balloon Festival. I think that was in Albuquerque, for example. Mm-hmm. We've done other shoots with partners that are around, like a museum, for example. It's like a memorial museum for Marines, for example. So they have interest in shooting around Memorial Day, for example, because they have a lot of events on site. So time-bound experiences are definitely something that we have experience in shooting, and then that can, live on your site as a flagship of what it is that you would experience when you come to that annual festival, for example.
Yeah, the one Alex is showing right now is a tour that we made for Visit Oakland. And, I was speaking about capturing events before they feature a street fair. I also think here, Alex, I'm sending the link for the Hot Air Balloon Festival, because this one is an interesting thing to look at in relation to what Meredith was talking about, like time-based event. The Hot Air Balloon Festival all takes place in one place, which is a giant field in Albuquerque, but they wanted to tell their story with multiple destinations in the tour. So we're spending the whole day at the Hot Air Balloon Festival, seeing, you know, there in the morning while they're setting up, in the afternoon while they're taking off, and in the evening when they're landing and packing things up. What we're looking at right now is what we call like an intro video. So it's a 360 video of a montage of the event itself. And then after that video is done, it has voiceover and music with it as well, so that, you know, they can talk about the event, tell us all about what you can experience there, hear from attendees themselves, get the audience excited about it. And then the tour itself, instead of each destination being a new location, it's a change in time. So we're advancing through the day of that Hot Air Balloon Festival with each location and talking about the progression of the event.
Yep. And something I might have been remiss in relaying earlier with these 360s that you're seeing right now, they are not just 360 photos that you can move around. These are 360 videos. So as you're seeing these videos playing and the point of view is changing, that is actually Alex live changing that point of view. So the video stays. And then as you as a user want to look up to see the balloons rising, you're looking up to see the balloons rising, or you might be, you know, looking at the crowd, for example. So you can change the viewpoint during the video as the user. And then of course, something like this is where drone photography really comes into super fun play for the on-site shoot team. They love
Or hot air balloon photography.
Yeah.
I was about to say, when is this festival?
Right. Looks really cool.
Oh my gosh, when is it? It's been a couple of years. Let's see.
Yeah.
Was not aware I wanted to go to Albuquerque, but
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, it's in April, so we just missed it.
Well, now we've got time. All right, any additional questions? Does this get anyone's kind of minds ticking on perhaps use cases for them? You know, thinking about virtual tours. Are virtual tours something you had thought about before? Is this incredibly new to you and you wanted to join the line today just to understand what a virtual tour is? Do we run the gamut on experience with virtual tours?
Yeah, if anyone wants to throw an idea at us based on, you know, your own work and your own destinations that you have to represent, Alex and I are happy to sort of spitball on how we would translate that into an experience.
Yeah.
I know as far as our participation for this morning went, since I can see the back end of things, and I do obviously know a little bit more about our members. Obviously, Scott said he was with the Virginia Arts Festival, and then we had some from tourism, from destination marketing organizations, higher education. We had one from an actual tour operation as well. So like Meredith was saying, I mean, if any of you have any ideas or any questions, I guess any kind of feedback or thoughts about how this could be translated to your operations, to your business, I think this would be a really great opportunity to kind of give the YouVisit team a little bit of insight into what it would look like for you all, or if there's any maybe changes or improvements or things maybe they haven't thought of. This would be a really great opportunity to kind of offer that up if any of you have any thoughts.
Yeah. And we're also happy to, you know, make any additional meetings with any of you all if that would be helpful as well. I know that we've got 13 minutes left on the line and some of you may be itching for time back, but we're also always eager to jump on the phone with you whenever works best for you all.
Hi, can you hear
Hi,
me?
Deb.
This is Deb. Yeah.
Yes, we can.
So I'm in a small community, Smithfield, Virginia. And I think what intrigued me most about this, and the reason I jumped on this call was, we do have some attractions in our area that are not open all the time. And so we quite often have visitors show up and they want to go to this one attraction and it's closed. And so I was wondering about having, you know, a virtual tour, and we've tried to do some of those on our own. this might be a step up above that, I
Mhm.
guess is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
This may be,
Sure.
That's a beautiful example of a use case for a virtual tour.
yeah,
Because like you said, we can capture those locations when they are open and offer a peek into them when they're closed. And I can even imagine, like you said, you have people show up and they can't get in. You can
Right.
create signage that has a QR code on it and allows them to scan that QR code and then go into the virtual tour itself.
well, and that's what we've done with one of them, and it's seemed to have worked pretty well. And again, it's just information, I guess, to start a conversation is what I was looking for. And we do have some events, some larger events, that sort of thing. So, and I will say with, I think it was Ryan that said earlier, you know, about the concerns about having these and people watching the virtual tours and then saying, okay, well, I've seen all I need to see, you know, I don't need to come to Smithfield, but you know, looks nice, but so, yeah.
Yeah. No, so I am from Fredericksburg, Virginia, so not quite
Okay.
as small as Smithfield, but I feel the same small town experience. And City of Fredericksburg actually is considering in partnering with us, YouVisit, to do a virtual tour because they want to highlight what all it is that it has to offer, right? So we showed you Visit Oakland. I think we alluded to Visit Houston, Meet Atlantic City. Those are all large
Right.
cities, right? But there's also a use case for really using it as a tourism tool to say, hey, come see us. We have this beautiful hotel. We've got these, 2 to 3 delicious restaurants, this beautiful outside space. You should make a weekend of this. And there's definitely a use case in that to highlight the kind of the best of Smithfield to then use it in your outbound marketing, in like a meet or a visit Smithfield type of organization.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we need to find some grant money to pay for it.
There you go. Are you guys part of Main Street?
We are on Main Street. Our visitor center
Okay.
is on Main Street. So
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
But very limited budgeting as far as marketing is concerned because we are
Sure.
part of a county government.
Sure.
So any additional funds that we get are through, DMO
Got it.
grants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yep.
Got to start someplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wanted to bring up this one. Obviously, NASA's not necessarily, it's in Houston, it's from one of our city tours, but I wanted to bring it up because they had a similar concern and it showcases a series of use cases that are additive to the overall experience, but not something that you can experience at any given time. So here we are at the Space Center. Over here we have like a fun animation, but what I wanted to show you is while standing here, you actually get to see a rocket launch. So if I click this, you'll start to see a satellite get shipped up into space, an experience that you get to have maybe a handful of times per month, let alone per year. But certainly something that's kind of unique to the story that NASA's telling. Here you get to jump into a 360 moment where you actually get to dive into the neutral buoyancy tank with the astronauts. And so you're swimming around, seeing the training that they're doing as they prepare to go into space to do their work. Over here, you get to be educated a little bit more about, other offerings that they have. And then down here, you get additional material, supplemental material that takes you inside their aspects of the museum and showcases what's in their permanent exhibition. And the reason that we wanted to do it this way was, one, these aren't available to everybody, but they are exciting for everybody. So they can share this and it's additive and enticing for people to come visit who feel inspired by what they see. Two, nobody gets to dive into the neutral buoyancy tank. So why not create a value add within the virtual tour that is solely unique to this space that keeps people here and keeps them getting educated? And three, by putting these pieces of media against other pieces of media that are always accessible, you're learning about everything that they offer. You're feeling excited about everything they offer. And you could imagine that we could add a hotspot here that says, closed on Fridays for the location that you're talking about, or only available for these hours, or book in advance. And those types of prompts actually really motivate people to click on the calls to action that are available in every destination. So you know that something's only available at a certain time, and you start to take the next step because you don't want to miss out. So I feel like the combination of being able to present material that maybe is ephemeral and not available at all times is both additive to getting people into your experience, and then it's sort of subterfuge because they get educated in the process and feel more motivated to take the next step.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful.
So I want to thank you all for coming out and joining us today. And I especially want to thank the team from YouVisit for putting together a great presentation for us. As I've mentioned, we will have a recap email. It will have a lot of great insights, some contact information for the team in case you had further questions or want to reach out with get some more information from them about how this could impact your organization's marketing. And that will be probably coming to you a little bit later this afternoon, along with the webinar recording. So that way you can share the information with your teams, talk a little bit more through the process, and reach out to YouVisit if you have any thoughts or want to connect with them for what your purposes are going to be. So thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you all.
Paul, it was
Thank
really
you,
nice
everyone.
chatting with you. Bye.
Bye.